Welcome back to another great episode of the Adam Talks podcast.
I started out as a wrestler, 10 years Olympic style. So I started when I was about 9 or so.
We said we don't want Bruce Wayne to be old and that's his reason for retiring. He has to have a reason to not be doing this.
I knew I'd always wanted to do it. I never saw myself at a desk job, and anytime I thought of something else, it always brought me back to wrestling.
Man, I don't like fancy pad work. I like realistic pad work. Am I formed? Am I punching correctly? Am I balanced? Like, a lot of them guys will hold pads way outside their faces, and it's just, I don't believe in that type of training, man. Like,
for a couple promotions, I wrestled under a mask, and we don't talk about those days. Because those days were fun and really embarrassing.
It is the first annual Berryville Film Festival. I'm the founder and festival director for it. So it's exciting to bring something to a small town, something brand new.
I think anything you do in wrestling has to have meaning to it. No matter, like, facial expressions, the high-flying moves, all that stuff like that.
And we're back with another one. I am super excited for this one. It's going to be a lot of fun. We've been kind of working to get this set up since SpaCon recently came to Hot Springs where I live, and I met this guy. We are talking to Sir Cophogus himself, the host of the Cinetomb and co-creator of Gen Comics, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Cody Lambert. How's it going, man?
Yeah, no, it's going dynamite. I am one of the co-creators betwixt myself and Evan Davis. You had him on about a month or so ago, so yeah.
Yeah,
he's
man.
a cool guy. He's a cool guy. But yeah,
how did you get? Go ahead, man. Sorry, buddy.
No, we interrupted each other. No, you first.
Oh, okay. How did you get into, like, film and comic book stuff, man? Was it just something that was like, this is cool, let's just try it?
Pretty much, yeah. No. So I got into comic books actually, in part through Evan.
Okay.
I was more of Evan was more of a Marvel guy. I was more of a DC guy. So my default is Batman. His default was Spider-Man. And we were just kind of vibing one day, and he busted out some Spider-Man comics, and I went, "Ooh, hey, what's that?" And he goes, he shows me, and I have a couple of Batman ones. You want to trade? And we did the infamous, middle school trade off, and he goes, "Okay, bring it back in a week." Okay, cool. And so I started reading Spider-Man. He started reading Batman, and so that kind of opened my eyes to more than just DC superheroes. But as far as film is concerned, I've been a film buff since, as my grandmother would say, knee high to a grasshopper. I've been always nutty about films and movies and things like that. My grandmother actually, she kind of fed into that specifically so she could watch stuff that she was interested in instead of me. So I'd watch the old monster movies, and she goes, "Oh yeah, no, that's Fay Ray. She's in this thing over here," and it was a romance movie. And I'd watch it because I just saw her get scooped up by King Kong the week before, and so it was stuff like that. That's kind of what kind of got me into figuring out the connections to things. And I've always just found older movies to be a little classier, whether it be in terms of tasteful suggestions. So for example, a lot of your older films are not going to have nudity in them, but they're going to be very suggestive in how they play it. Nowadays, they'll gladly show full frontal, and you're going, oh, I didn't want to see that. And that's kind of been a reoccurring thing for me, is that I keep going backwards to these older movies to go, okay, I want something that's more artsy. And so it's the marriage of the two has been a very interesting experience as well. Trying to figure out, hunting down film adaptations of comic books, or comic book adaptations of films, things like that. So,
yeah, man, I completely agree on a lot of those things, and I didn't know until recently, honestly, that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that I watched when I was a kid, the first live action one, was based off a comic book originally. That surprised me. I was like, hang on, that was a comic book? Are you kidding me?
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
it's like
and from what I
Frank Miller
understand, the
level
comic,
dark too. Like there's
that's what I was
layers.
about to say.
Yeah. Like you know, it's not Jim Henson doing the puppetry. It's like, oh no, here's Michelangelo and he's bleeding now, and you're going, you're the funny one. What happened? You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
But also it goes the opposite way too though, man. Like if you go back to like 1939 and 1942, I think it was, or maybe 43, Batman and Robin had a serial, black and white serial back then, man. And I watched those and they were so different. It was so different watching those, compared to what would come just 20 or so years later with Adam West, and then 20 or so years later with Michael Keaton as Batman. You know what I mean? It's just different levels of different filmmaking techniques and different styles and stuff.
Oh,
I mean,
no, you're right. And actually, a funny little story about that. Those two movie serials from the 30s and 40s are the whole reason that the Adam West show got greenlit.
oh wow.
It's gonna sound like I'm making it up, but I'm dead serious. They were showing those old movie serials. There was Batman, and then there was Batman and Robin, and they showed both of those movie serials at the Playboy Mansion. And this is a true story. You can look it up. But they were showing them at the Playboy Mansion, and the Playmates were getting really invested in this stuff, going, "Oh, this is fun." And they had a whole bunch of people over because that's what Hugh Hefner did. He always had these large, lavish parties. And a couple of executives were there, and producers and everything, going, they're really digging this. Do you think we can revive this? And they said, yeah, sure, of course we can. They got a hold of Bob Kane. One thing led to another, and then Adam West took over as Batman. And so, yeah, exactly. It's cause and effect. And then the other two, the later two of the Batman quadrilogy, were specifically inspired by the Adam West show. That's why they're more goofy and lighthearted, even though they still have that Tim Burton dark neon everywhere. So
yeah,
it's kind of crazy.
I mean, the 40s and the 39 and 43 or 41 and 43. I may have been wrong, not 39, maybe 41 and 43. I have both of the DVDs. They're like two disc sets or something like that, both of them. But I have both of those, and it's crazy because those aren't like lighthearted, jovial like Adam West kind of stuff was. But the Tim Burton stuff is kind of, I feel like, even more so calling back to those than you were seeing in the Adam West stuff. You know what I mean? Because the stuff was serious. It was, of course, based in the weird gothic world of Tim Burton. That's the best word I could think of it to be described, the weird gothic world of him, because he has all these different gothic stuff that is just out there. Anyway, take that out of consideration and you look at the characters. They're realistic, ground-based characters. And you can go back to those 40s stuff and see the exact same style, the exact same sort of darkness, the real, we got to do this or this is going to happen. There are stakes there. It wasn't like, quick, Robin, hand me the shark repellent spray. You know, it wasn't like that from the Adam West stuff. It got real again. And that's what I love about it, there was other things that did the same thing. You had Captain America back in the 40s, I believe, as well. I may be mistaken, but I believe he had a black and white serial. Superman obviously had like two different runs of it. And then they jumped forward and both of them got their own stuff in the 70s. Captain America was not great, but the Superman film is iconic, Christopher Reeve's Superman, man. He was the man that taught the world they could fly. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on movies getting reverted into comics, or how that may have worked, how you think that played into pop culture as a whole.
Okay, so movies getting turned into comics is a little more of a rarity in today's pop culture, just because it's something that's really got to gravitate to a fan base. If it can latch onto a fan base they'll start producing comics because they know that the market demands it. And so there's a less likelihood of them pulling from a pre-existing property that's already made it to film, and more often than not, they're using already existing comics for essentially idea mining, where it's like, oh, hey, we're coming up on the 2020s. What's some stuff that's coming up 100 years old? And now we're getting Nosferatu, the remake of Nosferatu, coming out. We just had The Caped Crusader hit Amazon, which is a nice homage to both the 90s series Batman, but also those original serials that you and I were just talking about. Then you also have, there's talks of them redoing, or not, I can't really say redoing, but doing another spin on The Shadow, or the Phantom, or any of these films that are rooted in that grim noir pulp hero kind of aesthetic. In fact, some of the very first superhero movies ever were these pulp heroes. So, Batman originally wielded, he originally would carry firearms, especially in that serial. There's the infamous one where he whips around and he's got the gun on the guy, and he never fires it. But then Captain America in his serial, he doesn't even have the classic shield. He just has a revolver, and he's going in and taking out the bad guys. Spy Smasher is another superhero from that same era, where the whole point is that he's going in and he's stopping the Nazis, but he has no problem wielding a gun while he does so. And with how bloodless the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been, it's kind of interesting to think about. On there's probably a universe just past ours where the Marvel movies just have a body count that matches the 300 films. There's probably, there probably is a Batman film where Batman does kill. That's very likely that could be a thing. And with stuff like the Robert Pattinson film that came out not too long ago, now we've got the Penguin spinoff series, and they're talking about doing another sequel in that line, and he felt very gritty and movie serial-ish. If you really think about how the movie serials are broken down, the whole point is that you had 12 episodes that come out weekly, and the whole point was that at the end of the episode you'd hit a climax so that you'd come back the next week to see if Batman could get out of the sticky situation he was in. And the Robert Pattinson film felt kind of like that. They'd lead into a climax, and then you'd have to wait a minute, but then he'd get out of it. And the whole ending was pretty much like that, with the flood, and I won't spoil too much in case people haven't seen it. But, that felt very much like a serialized adventure in that regard. So, I think if Hollywood would trust the fandom that they are catering to more, we would get a lot better adaptations. Not to say that the stuff that we have now is bad. It's just, I feel like they don't trust the fan base enough. Infamously, we just had them announce that the Batman Beyond movie was canceled, even though it was being made by the same creative team as Into the Spider-Verse, using the same animation style, using all this stuff. And then they even made the mistake of releasing the screenshots of what they had developed. And it looks phenomenal. You need a cyberpunk Batman film. Fans have been clamoring for it ever since Terry McGinnis first left screens back in the early 2000s. And ultimately they decided that it wasn't worth it because they didn't feel like the fan base was there. I don't feel like that's the case. I think that they're shortchanging we as fans. I think if they made this stuff, especially considering how successful the two Spider-Verse movies have been, I think if they would trust us a little bit, they would be, shock and awe. But then you have the flip side of that same coin, which is superhero fatigue. which is what Marvel is currently dealing with, where now it's, oh, great, we got another Marvel movie coming out. I can't watch this series anymore because now it's 30 plus films. I might as well just sit down and binge James Bond. I'd get more out of that.
Yeah.
So
They get different actors to play James Bond, but it's it's supposed to be the same dude all the time, all the way through, man. I mean, it's like, how do you explain that?
Actually, you know what? Actually, speaking of great franchises, Godzilla, that was one. Somebody who showed up as a film first and then got a comic book adaptation. They're still making Godzilla comics. So, there's one. I'm sad that it took me that long to remember that guy, so, oops.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Tell us, all right, getting on to comics specifically. Let's talk Gen Comics. How did the whole concept, how did the idea come about?
Oh, okay. So, obviously, Evan and I have been coming up with this thing for a while. We've been going, okay, we want to make... It started off as, ooh, man, wouldn't it be great if we could write for Marvel or draw for Marvel? And Evan has always been an artist. That's pretty much his default. He is a wonderful artist. Serpent Spectre is his love letter to that, in fact. And I've been more of an ideas guy. I've been more of a writer. It took me a little bit longer to kind of get into my own, because otherwise I was, not even going to lie, you're in high school, most of your stuff is plagiarized stuff that you're going, oh, yeah, this would be really cool, and you take the plot synopsis of something and you try to turn it into your own thing. All great writers have to start somewhere, and that's how I started. I was plagiarizing stuff to make my own fan fiction so I could learn how to write, if that makes any sense. And and now I'm a decent enough writer, I would guess. I've not published anything myself until actually next year. Next year, Sir Cophogus will make an official comic book adaptation licensed through Gen Comics. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's going to be written by myself. The art is going to be various artists, and it's going to be, six or seven different short stories that are all edited together with Sir Cophogus going from one to the next. And that's going to be my first published work. And it's going to be under Gen Comics. I mean, might as well. It's part of the company. But
definitely,
that's how we got started. That's how the ball got rolling. I can't remember what we originally called it. What we originally wanted to call the company. I cannot for the life of me remember. But we went, okay, no, let's, instead of working for Marvel, instead of working for DC, let's make our own. How do we do this? And we started doing all the research and the business side of things and trying to understand. And we're dumb high schooler kids who think that we have it all figured out. Cut 30 drafts later, and we're going, how do we do this? I had no idea. But I came up with the idea of Gen Comics. And Evan came up with the idea of the symbol of the logo being the DNA strand. And then I went, oh, the DNA strand looks like an X. He goes, yeah. I went, well, then take the C off, put the X there. That's the Gen Comics. That's the DNA strand. And he went, that's ingenious. That's fantastic. And it's basically been that same logo ever since. We were, I think we were sophomores when we came up with the logo. And just been going, okay, how do we do this from there ever since? So
I think he said whenever he was on the episode, whenever I did the episode with him, he said that y'all were in like middle school or junior high or something when you first started talking about this stuff.
It was middle school stuff. And it's hell of a pipe dream. I don't know how radical I can get with cursing, so I'll stick with hell at the most. But
you can say whatever you want to, man.
Fair enough. But no, it's been wonderful. Kind of seeing where we started and where we ended. Evan is rather notorious for actually having a binder of first drafts, and it's
oh wow,
yeah, and it is the first draft of Serpent Spectre. It's the first draft of a superhero series that I was trying to understand, because again, I was trying to write. He was named Vengeance, and it was trying to understand, how to write things. But he actually has all this stuff documented in a 3-ring binder for just us to kind of go, bro, hey, look, you see this? And I kind of go, oh,
Remember
gosh,
that?
yeah, I know. What were those proportions? Why is he pencil thin? Yeah, it's like, I remember that one. I just took that one off of a Batman story, and that one I was watching the Spider-Man 2 movie and got me going on that one. That stuff will never see the light of day until we're both cold and in the ground. But it's really fun to kind of go, hey, look, this is us then, this is us now, and now Gen Comics, we have Kaiju Days, we have Serpent Spectre, and then we have Tiger Boy.
Catboy.
Yes, Tiger Boy first.
Tiger Boy, yeah.
It's going to be a 6-issue miniseries. We've got the first 3 of them out now, and they're selling like hotcakes. They're a lot of fun. And then next year we're going to have Sarcophagus's Accursed Comix. It's going to be the Accursed Comix. So we're going to have 4.
Is it going to be like? I was going to ask. It's going to be kind of like Tales from the Crypt or whatever, where he's like hosting these comics and explaining what's like narrating it in a sense. Like he's like, this is what has happened to your poor soul. That was like Palpatine, but
exactly.
Same sort of thing.
So it's with Accursed Comix, Sarcophagus, which he is the mummy. He is a fez wearing mummy with a red coat and really bad puns. And he'll introduce the comic going, "Greetings, gentle patrons. I have a wonderful story for you." Yes, and of course he'll get into the comic, the first couple of stories, and about halfway through there will be a break where I'll actually put that's going to be our credits page for Accursed Comix, and you're going to have halfway through you're going to have Sarcophagus going, now these are all my writers, these are all my illustrators, these are all my editors. Give them a wonderful round of applause, and then this is the history of horror comics and why we have censorship laws and all these other things. And on to the frightful tales, yes, and now just turn the page. Kicks right back into it, and like it never.
Wow.
So very Tales from the Crypt-ish, with tongue firmly in cheek. We will be purposely addressing the fourth wall, and with the soul, and it's a complete reference to the cinetomb, where I have 3 walls, 1, 2, 3, and then a 4th wall, which I constantly break because I'm always looking at the camera. And so with Accursed Comix, he knows that you're there. You are the 4th wall, so he directly addresses you. You might as well take a peek behind the curtain while you're here. And
like I can imagine looking at it and seeing him, like seeing actual panels of the comic book, like there's a panel here, there's a panel here, there's a panel here, and then maybe a slightly bigger one like overlapping, but he's like in front of the panels right here like this. Hey,
Yeah.
That stuff, that would be great, man. That sounds really awesome, dude.
Cross your fingers. We should have it actually available this time next year. So 2025 SpaCon, we should have issue 1 of Accursed Comix out.
And I'll be dropping by your booth just like I did this year, man.
Heck yeah. And from what I understand, we might have the next issue of Tiger Boy Versus by then. Don't hold me to that one. But it's going to be a lot of fun. We're even if we don't have a hard copy, I believe we should have digital copies by this time next year. Regardless, it's fun. It's really awesome to kind of go, look, I did a thing, and this is my thing, and it's a wonderful thing, and it may be garbage, it's my garbage, and I want to share it with everybody. Here we go. So yeah.
Man, how do you all right, so when you're designing a character or maybe not a character, but an alter ego. How do you go about doing that, man?
Oh, okay. So when it comes to sarcophagus, the meetings, yes, it's always wonderful to see fans. Yes.
Boris Karloff.
Yeah, exactly. The main thing is when designing any character, this goes to if you are simply presenting a voice. This goes to if you're physically presenting them. This goes to if you're drawing them. What they refer to as a silhouette. A nice silhouette is important. And so, for example, whenever I was making sarcophagus, I was racking my brain going, okay, so I want other people to see these monster movies. I want people to see these movies that I think are really fun. They may be stupid, but they're a lot of fun for me. How do I do this? And so I went with, what if it was a mad scientist? And so he's, what if he's a mad scientist and he's the idea is that he's Frankensteining these DVDs and these VHSs together, and then he shows them to you, and then that's the really terrible movie that he's come up with, and then you start watching it. And I went, well, there's a lot of mad scientist type characters. Mystery Science Theater, if you're familiar with that, they're famous for the Mads, which the whole plot of the show is that this guy gets locked in a spaceship, shot into space by these mad scientists who want to take over the world, and they think that by showing the worst film ever made, it will drive anyone insane, and they can use it to dominate the world. That's the entire plot of the show. 20 seasons later, and it's still going. And everybody is familiar. If you watch the show, you're familiar with the main character, his little robot puppets, and the Mads, which are the mad scientists. Every few seasons they swap out for new bad guys, but it's always a mad scientist. And so I went, I don't know if I want to do mad scientist. There's a guy up in Tennessee who's a mad scientist. There's a guy in Virginia who's a mad scientist. There's a few dozen of those. And I thought, well, okay, what about vampire? Everybody's Count Dracula. Okay, well, what if I'm Nosferatu instead? Nobody's done a Nosferatu. And so I came up with the name Damon Von Pierre. So he's demon vampire.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
So he's demon vampire, but you give him a funny accent and it becomes Damon Von Pierre. And I went, oh, that may be fun. But he's just another vampire. How do I do this? What's a very nice silhouette that I could cut for this character? And I was thinking about the old monster movies, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, the Mummy, and then it hit me. There are no mummy horror hosts. There's one, technically. She's up in Cleveland. Her name is Janet Decay, and her husband, Grim Grigori, who's like a rockabilly ape, and then she's a mummy, and so they have the show called The Mummy and the Monkey. And I went, well, there's no other mummies. Okay, so let's be a mummy. That immediately puts me somewhere else, and so I'm a little bit adjacent to everybody else. And what's a color I can go with? Well, everybody goes black, so don't want to go black. Most people do black with red on the inside, and I thought, what if I invert that? And so now it's red with black on the inside. And more often than not, I'm wearing a black shirt with this red coat and a red fez and these supposedly rotting bandages that are actually just your classic bandages you get from the dollar store, except I soaked them in tea so that they are kind of yellowed. And there you go. Now suddenly he has a nice silhouette. You see him right away. You know exactly who he is. And there you go. So it's anytime you're creating a character, it is spaghetti on a wall. You throw it at the wall, you see what sticks, and then depending on what sticks, you go, okay, I like this idea, I like this idea. Can we merge these? No, can't merge that one. Okay, I like this idea with that other idea. Can we merge these? Yes, we can. And then it becomes, okay, sweet. So let's do this. Let's make this happen. And so you have the beginnings of a nice character going. You'll have sarcophagus. You'll have Clutchman, you'll have Catman, you'll have all these other various heroes, and it all stems from that idea of what's going to stick out in you, the viewer's mind. What's going to be something that I can show you at a glance, and you know exactly who it is. So that's pretty much my 2 cents worth on that.
That, and I would assume substance, like a history, a story of some sort, would be important for them as well. Like, what is their backstory? Who are they? You know what I mean? Like, if you're doing a character, maybe not an alter ego like sarcophagus, but as far as your show goes, but in the comic world, I would imagine a history would be important for them, or having a motivation of some sort. Correct?
Yeah, no, 1,000%. Oh yes. So, like, Batman would not be Batman if his parents didn't go down that dark alleyway. Batman would not be Batman if that bat had not flown into the window and scared him. And him going, I need something that's terrifying, something that'll strike fear into the hearts of these crooks, and then the bat flies through the window and it scares him, and he goes, oh, a bat, that would work. Superman, I need to be big and bright, and something that people will see very clearly so that they know that hope is on the way, that help is on the way, that there is someone here that they can lean on. And so a backstory will help inform their design a little bit more. So if you want to do like a grimdark kind of character, you're going to need a grimdark backstory to explain why they're a grimdark character. If you're going to go, if you're going to go, okay, well, in this world, everything is sunshine and rainbows, except the sunshine and rainbows are the bad guys because they won't let they won't let bad stuff happen. So they're actually now this totalitarian thing, and so the main character is a demon trying to bring about bad stuff. That is an insane concept that I just came out of the top of my head right there, but that would inform your entire character right there.
Definitely.
Help you mold that. So no, I agree. Backstory is very important. If you want to do a concept, then start with your silhouette. If you want to improve upon that, start figuring out why they look like that. And it could be, it could be something as simple as they have a lapel pin that has some sort of significance, or like famously with the Punisher, he has a big skull thing going on right here. That's attached to his backstory. And, so everybody goes, oh, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense why he has this skull thing here. But if you just gave Frank Castle a story and you didn't have a backstory attached to him, then why does he have this? This is weird. This is an odd thing. Otherwise, he'd be an 80s action hero like Chuck Norris or somebody else. Where does that line get drawn? So
right. But we did get an 80s version of the Punisher with Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, yeah. Which is,
we got him in there. He was like, I'm not afraid of anybody. I'm going to punish them all. They're going to die. That was more Stallone, but, he was, I am the law. I am Judge Dredd. That guy. But, it was a little bit different, So, anyways, we did get Punisher in the 80s, and we did get the craziness of the thing that they were in the 80s. So,
and trust me, in the 80s, the Punisher had a mullet. Dude, no one was safe from the mullet. Even Superman had a mullet.
Yeah.
So,
everybody had the mullets in the 80s. And now, for some odd reason, they're coming back. So, I don't know that, My mom and dad have told me history just repeats itself. It's a big circle and fashion comes back around. So I guess that's what we're seeing now with all these younger people with it, you know?
Even if history doesn't repeat, it will rhyme. That's another one that I've heard. So yeah, I agree. But
let's talk about the cinetomb, man. Let's talk about the cinetomb. How did it get started? When did you start thinking, I'm going to do this show where I talk about films? How did the thought even come to your head?
Okay, well, like all good horror stories, let's think back a few years. And it was the infamous time that we don't talk about where everyone had to wear something over their face. I
don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, see?
I don't know what you mean.
No, not a clue.
It was 2019, 2021, 2022, 2023.
Yeah,
right?
No, there was no zero. Nothing happened. It was just the goose egg. But I actually was working at a movie theater at the time. And I was the night janitor, which you may not think is all that glamorous until you realize that they clean those things with a leaf blower. So they get at the back of the movie theater with the leaf blower, and you see waves of popcorn go flying out of the stands. It's hilarious. And then you sweep it all up, you throw it in the trash can, and any money that flies out is your tip money. And there you go. Well, then the infamous thing occurred, and I went, well, you know, my first job has laid me off. My second job's letting me stay on because we're still doing this stuff. So I want something to do, some sort of hobby to abide my time with. And I attempted TikTok for about a month and went, nope, not for me. I don't understand what I'm doing. I need to stick with something that I understand, and I have always wanted to do stuff involving movies, talking about movies, getting to know the history of them. In fact, a friend of ours will occasionally pull up those movie quiz things on the internet and go, all right, I got one for you, and he'll start rambling off and creating questions for me to answer. We call it the Bloody Stumper. And and he'll always try to figure out if he can stump me on these old movie quizzes. And I think the lowest I ever got was a B. But generally speaking, it was I want to do something with this. What do I do? And there was a guy up in Cleveland named Don O'Malley who does Don's Breakfast Cereal Show, where he would show the Batman serials, the Superman serials, any of those old Western serials, things like that. And it was like, oh, hey, that's really cool. Well, it was coming up on his 1-year anniversary. And he goes, hey, calling all horror hosts, I'm doing this big birthday bash for my show. If you would be so kind as to send a clip just saying, hey, congrats, you've made it a year. That's all I need. And I had already come up with the idea for Sarcophagus, and I went, but I hadn't actually filmed anything yet. And I went, you know what? If I wait until I have all of the stuff edited together, I'm going to miss his anniversary, his 1-year anniversary. And I was already watching his show. I really liked his show because of what it was. He just marathons the whole serial. And sometimes he'll find a colorized version and show the colorized version and stuff like that. It's a nice little thing. You know what? Let me go ahead and put a pause on my show, my pilot episode. Let me put a pause on that. And I want to wish this guy congrats on a year on his year birthday. So I messaged him and I said, hey, what do you need? I mean, I know that you're just saying that you want somebody to say, happy birthday to you, but what do you need? And he goes, well, we're doing a double feature. We're doing the Undersea Kingdom and the Adventures of Captain Marvel. And I have some stuff for the first serial, but I don't have enough stuff for the second serial. So if you could send anything to help me fill out the time, that'd be great. I said, anything? He goes, yeah, anything. And so I real quick thought about it, and I wrote a script real fast of I say a script. I just wrote down a bunch of film trivia that I knew about these film serials. dressed up as Sarcophagus, got in front of the set, and I did 3 segments per serial, so a total of 6 segments where I would pop in and go, "Oh yes, Undersea Kingdom, that's a wonderful one, but you'll see, ladies and gentlemen, yes, that one of the gods is very interesting. If you look, he's actually the gentleman who gets tied to the hood of the car, you see. And it's actually Lon Chaney. So if you know Wolfman, that's him. He's actually uncredited in this role, but that's him. So here you go. And so I did a total of 6 segments, 3 for Undersea Kingdom and 3 for Adventures of Captain Marvel. 4 of which got used. So he used 2 of them for Undersea and 2 of them for Adventures of Captain Marvel. And that was actually my debut as Sarcophagus, was doing that. And it was just my way of saying, hey, happy birthday, this is what I can do. And a couple of months later, he messaged me again and goes, so I'm doing a Christmas special. And I had already started filming by then. But Don and I are actually really good friends. In fact, when I make my return to YouTube later this year, I am announcing it on his show. I'm going to be doing another set of inserts for his show. I'm going to be popping back up as Sarcophagus. Just like a mummy's curse, you can't keep me down long. And, so I'm going to be doing that. But that's actually how it got started, was just a favor to a friend. Or not even really a friend, it was just a favor to a guy that I just appreciated his work as a fellow creator. And said, you know what, why not, let's do this. And so I started throwing some crossovers with some other creators. I started doing my show. And then here in Hot Springs, we actually do have the International Horror Film Festival. And I got to talking to one of the guys who runs that, named Bill Volland, and I said, hey, I've been to the Horror Film Festival. It's an independent horror film festival, but what you do with a host? Because otherwise, before I showed up, it was just Bill behind the control panel, popping a microphone, going, and our next film is the Screaming Skull. And this was the 2095 version or whatever. And that was basically all I was doing. So I said, hey, do you need a host? And I sent him an episode saying, this is what I can do. And it was like a supercut of my show. This is what I can do. What do you think? And he contacts me, says, okay, so I can't pay you. I said, I didn't ask for payment. I said, do you need a host? And he said, yeah, come on down. And this is the 4th year now that I'll be hosting. I've been going to the film festival for the 5 or 6 years, and so this is my 4th year actually doing the hosting side of things. It's a live show, 3 days in a row, back to back, showing films that have never seen a theatrical release. Wow. Yeah, and it's all indie films. It's all movies. Michael Berryman from The Hills Have Eyes is going to be here this year. Alan Howarth, who is the guy who did the music for Escape from New York, Halloween. He did a little bit for The Little Mermaid and Beetlejuice even. Obviously, Danny Elfman took over a good chunk of that too. But still, like he was helping a lot. He was very instrumental in a lot of this. John Carpenter's The Thing, if you know. If you've ever seen that movie, he did the music for that as well. And he's actually going to be this year as well, doing a live show. He's actually going to do like a greatest hits live concert of his music this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, I was, alright, so not only, this is, I'm going to be, ending this season. This is the 2nd season of this show. I'm going to be ending the 2nd season of this show, the end of November. It'll be almost 70 episodes. But before I started doing this, my dream was to be a professional wrestler. And I got to do that 2022, 2 years ago. I got to live my dream and wrestle, and I've wrestled 7 professional wrestling matches, which is freaking awesome. But the first time I ever got to do it, I had the butterflies, I had the jitters. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, your adrenaline gets going and stuff, and you just hear the crowd starting to come alive and everything, and it's, woo. I imagine it probably had to have been something similar the first year you did the hosting thing for that.
First year, it's every year. Every time he hands me the mic, he goes, all right, so here's the list of the movies. This is what's coming out first. This is what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at this list going, okay, don't mess it up. How do you pronounce that guy's name? And I run over to like 2 or 3 of the other volunteers going, do we know if this guy's in the crowd? I need to figure out how to pronounce his name first before I announce him. But, my anxiety spikes in a good way, but it spikes every time I get handed that mic, for the first time. And once I get going, I'm good. But it's that initial anxiety of, whew, okay, we can do this. So I completely just...
But it's like I imagine for me, like I said, it was a dream I've had since I was 7 years old, knee high to a grasshopper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's been a dream I had my whole life to be a pro wrestler. I watched it with my dad and my uncle. And my uncle sadly is no longer around, but my dad, and me used to watch wrestling from the time I was like 5, 6 years old all the way up until even sometimes current day we'll watch wrestling together. So getting the chance to get in there and do that, it was a dream come true. And as a film buff, someone who just loves films, I'm almost certain it's a dream come true feeling for you when you get the chance to do it as well.
Oh yeah. If you're aware of Turner Classic Movies, Robert Osborne, every time he would come on screen, was only on screen for 2 or 3 minutes at a time, but every time he showed up to tell me about these movies uncut, because that was the whole point of Turner Classic Movies. They never showed commercials until the movie was over. But every time he popped up on screen, I was glued. I wanted to know what information he had. And to be that now is amazing, because not only are we showing the films commercial free, the same way that Turner Classic Movies does, but I have information that no one else has. For just a moment, I have information that no one else has, because these films have never been in a theater before, and I get to show them for the first time on the big screen. And that I'm elated every time. I don't care if it's something that was filmed with a video camera from the 80s and it looks like it's actually done on VHS tape and the monster is made of construction paper. I get to do something and show something to a whole slew of people that have never seen this film. No one's ever seen it except for the cast and crew themselves. Cloud9. Every time. Cloud9.
Definitely, man. Definitely. I think the coolest thing about the feeling of being able to live a dream, or to be able to do something that it feels like you're very passionate about. The coolest thing is the opportunity, the chance to get to do it, because it doesn't happen for everybody. You have to be determined. You have to be able to get out there and go and get it. Say, I'm not going to give up. I'm just going to keep going until I get to do what I want to do. You're doing your own movie reviews, as Sir Cophogus, of course. Doing your own movie reviews. You're getting to get on stage and, like you said, introduce these other movies. But in your YouTube channel doing this stuff, I know for a fact, not only whenever I was doing, well, mainly I guess when I was doing reels, when I was trying to make reels out of the videos for, I don't know, a month at most, I was trying to make reels and upload them here and do this. Man, it gets stressful trying to do that, to promote your stuff. It gets stressful trying to edit, and anxiety gets built, and you get pissed off, and it's like, what the hell do I have? What am I doing? Why am I even doing this? Have you had moments like that during, whether it was sarcophagus or anything else, like through your own creative process?
Yeah. So not only am I going to be doing the accursed comics, and I'm editing everything, and I'm figuring out the page format and everything else, and I'm sitting here the entire time going, like, just stressing myself out, going, okay, why did I agree to do this? Because it's one thing to do it on video. You know, like we honestly through video, it's so much easier, especially today. We are spoiled because we can go into Hit Film 2000 blah 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 and, you know, point and click and drag and and yeah, sure, it may take all day to actually get it done, but we can get done in a day what these guys were not able to do in 2 or 3 days just a decade prior. Comic books, figuring out the format on that and everything else, it's just as stressful now as it was then, except now I have a computer screen where I can scroll through and I can see exactly like where everything is shaped and how everything slots in perfectly. But if my measurements are off because I don't have a ruler on the page to actually go, okay, it's this long, then that entire page is scrapped and I got to start all over again. Self-promotion is always the hardest, honestly. That is 1,000% the hardest thing, because you are an echo chamber until someone hears you. It's, hey, come look at my stuff. It's great stuff. It's my stuff. I want everyone to see my stuff. If no one sees, then no one comes, and you're still just shouting into the void. And then you get that one little bip on your social media that goes, hey, somebody watched it. Somebody watched it. That's great. And then you get another one and another one. And it might be 3 weeks until you get a fifth that watches it, but those first 3 are enough to make you go, holy crap, people are doing things. This is awesome. They're sharing this with me. Reels, you know, and then if you're lucky enough to have a support system of any kind, whether it be emotional support with family or if it's actual like business support. I've actually had other hosts like Don O'Malley, like there's the Gatekeeper, there's a couple of other guys, Carlos Borloff up in Washington area. They've all been open about it and said, hey, if you need help, we can't do much, but we can at least give you pointers. We can help out a little bit, do X, Y, and Z. It might take us a couple of days to respond back to you, but if you have an issue with your show, let us know. Some of them are even as helpful as, I have a following. You can post on my Facebook page if you want, whenever your show comes up. And I'm going, really? Yeah. You're a cool guy, or, you know, maybe it's not even you're a cool guy. Maybe it's just that you've been harassing them long enough that they finally buckled and said, yes, please stop. But, you know, if you can come up with some kind of support system, then that will be, it'll be a tremendous help. I have Evan Davis. I have my family. I have some of the other horror hosts. I have my own self-worth and ego kind of pushing me and going, you know what? No one's watched this episode, so I know that I did something wrong here somewhere. Maybe it's because I didn't edit this quite right. Maybe it's something else that's going on. So I analyze what didn't work a little bit better and trying to see if I can figure it out. If I can, great. I'll post it again in about a year with the new cuts and see if it hits better. If I can't, then I go, we got to move on. Otherwise, we're not going to go anywhere. And so you just got to swallow your pride and move on. So it's important to set boundaries, but also set limits. Which seems the same thing, but it's not. Like, my boundary is, okay, I'm gonna hyper focus on this until, but then my limit is, if I can't figure it out within this time frame, stop, move on, or you're never going on any further. Keep pushing, always forward, or else you don't learn. you don't give yourself the opportunity to torn. So
Definitely, man.
yeah, it's not for everybody. Being creative in general is not for everybody, but I do think that anybody has the ability to do it. And it just
Definitely.
it just depends. It varies person to person on what kind do you.
Yeah, I think everybody has the capability to be creative, in their own way. They can figure something out. And if they feel like, I don't know I don't know how to do what you do, or I can't do, well, I feel like that's probably, you don't have the support behind you saying, yeah, you can do it. Just relax, just come up with something, think of an idea,
Yeah.
and it's super important, like you said, to have a support system of some kind, whenever I get in those moments, I have my family really, and then, some of my friends are really cool about telling me, hey, I listened to the episode. Hey, I like that. I'll watch that or whatever. And that's awesome whenever you get to hear that because, as a creator, if I'm being honest, I've been a creator for a little bit, just doing different things, not just the podcast, because I tried to do films and I didn't have enough people around me to do films. So, I stopped doing those and started doing audio dramas, and the people seem to be liking the audio dramas that were in them. All of them that I've heard from this one audio drama in particular, they're like, it's awesome. Like, yes, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
But if you have a doubt in your head about something, it's important to have some kind of support system around you to help lift you up and to say, hey, don't worry about it. You're going to get it eventually. It's going to happen for you, whatever it is, you're trying to do. But man, Cody, thank you so much for jumping on here, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, dude. It's so cool having you on here, being able to talk to Sir Cophogus, being able to talk to Cody Lambert, the co-creator of Gen Comics, talked a little comics, talked a little film, talked about all kinds of stuff. And next season, if you want to, we'll get you back on and talk a little bit more, man.
Heck yeah! Hey, look, you got my contacts. Shoot me up. I'll gladly jump back on. And I'll talk until my face is blue. I will say, I'll do a little self promotion real fast. I talked about how we're gonna do Accursed Comics, should be next year. I'm also going to be launching the Coffin Table podcast, which is going to be the movie reviews specifically. It's going to be myself and a co-host, Anita Dirtnap. So you're going to have Sir Cophogus and Anita Dirtnap as and we're gonna get on and just talk movies of yesteryear. It's gonna be a once a month podcast there, and I'll also once a month there's gonna be Rotten Ragtime radio show where Sir Cophogus will be hosting like a DJ, old school like Halloween style music or whatnots, stuff that I just find interesting. That I go, hey, I want to listen to this. I want to share this with other people. So I'll be launching both of those hopefully later this year. It might be my Christmas present to myself, actually. So
there you go. Well, normally we end the show with something that's very important to me, and that's gratefulness. Because, man, I'm a super grateful guy for so many different things. And the way it works is I'll say 3 things I'm grateful for. I'll give my guests a chance to say 3 things they're grateful for. And mine don't usually change, if I'm honest. Mine are exactly the same literally every time because they are the most important things to me. And if there's something super important to you, most of the time it just doesn't change. It stays where it's at because it's important to you, So the 3 things that I'm grateful for, man. 1, we've already talked about it a ton, my support system. My beautiful wife, my 2 beautiful daughters, my mom, my dad, my brother, anybody who supported me on any of the journeys I've gone on throughout this life and may potentially go on. Very, very grateful to have them in my life because without them, I wouldn't be doing anything that I'm doing. So very grateful for them. The second thing is you. Well, specifically the guests that come on the show, because if I'm being honest, man, you didn't have to come on here, dude. I'm just some guy that likes to talk to people, so I'm very grateful for people that will choose to come on this show, because there's no reason for anybody to come on here. I'm just some random dude that likes talking to people. So very, very, very appreciative, very grateful for you to come on today, and any other guests that have came on in the past or maybe coming on in the future. It means the world to me. And the third thing is kind of a twofer for me. One is my health. A little bit more than a month ago. Well, yeah, a little bit more than a month ago. I had an accident and I was off work for 2 weeks because of this accident. And I'm happy to say about a little bit more than a month ago later, I'm back to being 100%. So I'm very grateful for my health. And the second thing is the good Lord above, man, because in my mind and in my heart, if you don't have God in your life, nothing's possible. And if you do have him in your life, anything and everything is possible. So Cody, what are 3 things in this moment that you are grateful for?
Well, I'm gonna steal one from you, actually. Support system, family, friends. I wouldn't be here without my family. I wouldn't be here without Evan, obviously. I wouldn't be here without a lot of the people in my life that have gone. Even if it's something as mild as just pat me on the head and go, "Hey, good try. Next time you'll get them." So I have to agree with family and friends, and I all of that together. That's something I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for my energy and health, and just the ability to be a little off kilter enough to come up with something as zany as this stuff. To actually have the ambition and drive and the health attached to it to fuel that ambition and drive to go, we're not in the big leagues yet, but yet isn't that far away. Let's keep pushing. And to actually have the health to keep going. I'm stealing both of those from you. I like that. Those are good answers. And then the third thing I'm grateful for, honestly, is the fact that I am still here. And I don't mean that as in on the planet Earth. I mean here, in this room. I'm thankful that I'm in this room. I'm thankful that I'm not in Timbuktu. I'm thankful that I'm not behind a jail cell. I'm thankful that I'm not 6 feet under. I'm happy that I'm not anywhere else. I'm happy with where I am, because I feel like here, even if sometimes it gets stifling, Good Lord says that he, this is a paraphrase obviously, but it says that he never gives you more than what you can handle. And so I feel like even whenever I'm at my wit's end, if I just wait a little bit longer, if I can push myself a little bit further, if I can hold out just that little extra bit, penny pinch a little bit more, I can breathe again. And sure enough, every time it's happened, okay, we did it. Let's keep going. And I'm thankful for all 3 of those. So for family and friends, for good health, and just for the fact that I'm still here on terra firma. I'm here now and not somewhere where I don't need to be. I think I'm right where I need to be.
Man, I'm here to tell you, those are 3 things worth being grateful for, and you couldn't twist it, you couldn't turn it any other way. Man, definitely 3 awesome things. If people were to look you up, where would they find you, man?
Well, so we have the cinetomb. We have the cinetomb. Yes, that is on YouTube. And if you're interested, Cody Lambert on Facebook. It's not sarcophagus, it's just Cody Lambert. And then if you get an hankering for more fun facts and trivia, you can look at me under Twitter, X. X marks the spot for good information. Ha ha. my Twitter handle, my X handle, however you want to phrase it, is sarcophagus_OG, because let's face it, there's only one sarcophagus. Thank you, gentle listeners, and thank you, Adam, sir. We appreciate you, sir. No, seriously, thank you for having me on, sir. It's been a blast. Appreciate it.
Dude, I've had an absolutely wonderful time, man. I'm gonna let you get back to doing whatever you were doing, whether it was a sarcophagus writing session or something else. I'm gonna let you get back to that, man. You have a wonderful night.
You as well, sir. Take care.
Come join the fun.